Ayun, okay. So, recording na tayo. So, ayan. So, welcome to the second half of your semester, especially sa subject natin na inorganic organic chemistry, which is on the organic chemistry stuff, no? So, kumbaga, our first lecture here would be on the introductory part, no? Paano nagkaroon ng organic chemistry and what are the primary principles na kailangan natin malaman in studying organic chemistry, no? So, yan, medyo marami tayong aaralin sa OrChem, no? So, hati yung lecture and laboratory sa pag-discuss ng mga topics na yan, no? So, anyway, for the first chapter ng second half ng semester, we will discuss the introduction to organic chemistry, basic concepts, no? And ano yung mga kailangan i-keep in mind dito. Then, for the latter half, no? Yung mga ibang lesson na, chapter 7, chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, yung mga topics natin doon ay, ano na, yung mga naming, no? And et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, so let's begin, no? So, introduction to OrgChem. So, most of our compounds on Earth, no, ay organic compounds, no? So, around 85% of all known compounds on Earth are organic compounds, no? So, ano examples niyan? So, yung organic compounds natin, they can go as complex as your DNA, your genetic information, organic compound yon. And it could also be as simple as methane, CH4. So wide variety yung organic compounds sa paligid natin. No? We can see them sa plants, minsan nasa hangin sila, etc. etc. No? So yun, so for example, yung coronavirus, no? Yung sequence ng kanyang genetic information, may orgchem doon. No? So inaaral niya yung bonds sa kanyang DNA, I mean RNA virus yun eh. So inaaral niya yung uh, connection ng mga amino acids sa kanyang RNA. Then yun, pwede natin malaman yung genetic sequence ng COVID-19, no? Ng SARS-CoV-2. Ano pa? Yung coating ng virus, no? Yung lipid bilayer, that is another organic compound, no? So yung lipid bilayer, that is the covering of the virus, no? That encapsulates the RNA, no? Against the harsh environment sa paligid, no? So ano pa? Yung ating mga halaman, no? So yung ating plants, yung pag-photosynthesis nila through the chloroplast, no? And the chlorophyll, yung mga molecule na yon, yun ay mga organic compounds din, no? So tayo, for example, kumain tayo ng, let's say, tocino or kanin. So yung mga pagkain na yon, may mga organic compounds din doon, no? So they are being broken down, no, by our body through a process called metabolism or cellular respiration, no? So your glucose molecules will be further broken down into energy, carbon dioxide, and water. Okay? So yun, malawak yung scope ng organic compounds, ng organic chemistry. And this serves as your linkage, no, in studying the biochemistry, no? So the chemistry of life, no? So magiging bridge nyo to for this subject, no, which you will take next year pa naman, no? So yung biochemistry, i-relate niya yung understanding natin ng organic chemistry, especially mga carbohydrates, lipids, protein, enzyme, nucleic acid, hormones, etc., etc. So we will try to understand their behaviors, their chemical properties, no, and their physical properties, no. Tapos kung ano yung effect niya sa life, no. For example, yung mga ating fats, no. Yung mga fats sa pagkain, no. So, yung pagkakaroon ng plaque sa puso, that can be explained by organic chemistry, no. Bakit nabubuo yung mga plaque sa heart? Tapos nagkukos yun ng heart attack, no. So, yun. So, orgchem yung nagdi-discuss nun. Si biochemistry naman, ina-apply niya talaga in real life, no? Ano yung mga possible explanations na pwede natin kunin from OrgChem sa applied sciences such as medical technology, medicine, no? Physiology, anatomy, etc., etc. Okay? So, kumbaga, ito yung bridge towards life sciences, no? Ano ba yung organic chemistry muna? Ano ba yung organic compounds, no? So, organic chemistry or organic compounds, yun ay mga pag-study natin ng compounds primarily made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, etc., etc., no? So yun. So these are compounds that are primarily composed of carbon atoms with hydrogen atoms. And sometimes may oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, and halogens, no? Yung ating group 7 atoms, no? So depending on the composition of your compound, depending on the types of the atoms you have there, may iba't ibang properties sila, no? Okay? So yun lang. Mamaya na natin balikan yan, no? Pero punta tayo sa history. 'Di ba napakalawak ng org-chem ngayon. Okay, so we have around 10 million organic compounds, etc., etc., 'di ba? So parang ang dami, no? Pero isip tayo, paano ba tayo napunta sa point na 'to, no? Paano tayo nagkaroon ng understanding ng org-chem? So balik tayo sa history, no? Sa inorganic chemistry, yung balik tanaw natin ay yung kay Democritus pati kay Aristotle, 'di ba? So, dito naman sa OrgChem, ang balik-tanaw natin ay around 19th century. Balikan natin yung mga konsepto nila noong 19th century. So, sa 19th century, mayroon tinatawag tayong vitalism. So, ano yung vitalism? This is a belief na yung organic compounds can only be made with the help of the vital force. Ano yung vital force? That is an unknown force, no? Yan yung puwersa na hindi natin malaman na meron ang living things, no? So, yun yung idea ng vitalism. Yung organic compounds natin, they are only created through the help of vital force. Ano yung vital force? We don't know. Yun yung sabi nila. Pero that is present daw in living organisms, no? For example, if you want to create glucose, which is an organic compound, kaya gawin yun ng halaman easily. Paano ginagawa yun ng halaman? Photosynthesis, no? So, ito yung equation ng photosynthesis. So, kinakapture niya yung carbon dioxide in the air, yung water sa lupa, and pinagsasama-sama niya yung atoms to create glucose, an organic compound, nakakain natin, no? Pero, kunwari, i-try natin yan gawin sa laboratory. Suppose na, kunwari, sa isang laboratory setup, I have my carbon dioxide, I have my water, pagsamahin ko, will I be able to create glucose? Obviously, hindi, no? Kunwari, bugahan mo yung tubig mo. Makakagawa ka ba ng glucose out of that? Hindi rin. Ano yung magagawa mo? Kadiring tubig, no? Kasi may laway-laway na. So, hindi mo pwede magawa yung mga organic molecules daw out of nowhere, no? Out of inorganic stuff, no? Without natural reasons, no? So hindi ka daw makakagawa ng mga organic molecules ng basta-basta. Kailangan yung vital force ang gagawa ng organic molecules, no? Which is present sa mga halaman, sa mga tao, sa mga hayop, at iba pa, no? So yun yung paniniwala nila, no? Na hindi mo pwede gawin ang organic compounds kasi may vital force, no? Parang may fear of the unknown, no? So hindi mo pwede gawin yan kasi dahil dito, no? Kasi kung kaya mo gawin yan, magiging witch ka tas susunugin ka nila. Ganun nung unang panahon, di ba? Okay. However, there was a chemist, no? A German chemist who tested the idea of vitalism. Sabi niya, ito ay hoax lang daw. Hoax ng vitalism. Ibig sabihin, fake lang. Bakit? Kasi ito yung ginawa niya, no? So, this is the German chemist that I am pertaining to. His name is Friedrich Wöhler. So, si Friedrich Wöhler, ang ginawa niya is ito. Ginawa niya is that from ammonium cyanate, which is naka-spotlight yung mukha ko. Okay. So, ang ginawa ni Friedrich Wöhler is yung ammonium cyanate, ininit niya. Saan ba nakikita yung ammonium cyanate? Usually, that is found sa minerals, no? Sa mga bato-bato. So, ginawa ni Friedrich Wöhler, ininit niya yung ammonium cyanate. Then, after heating that, may napansin siyang something pungent, mabaho, which is urea. Di ba ito yung nasa urine natin, di ba? Kaya minsan, pag yung ihi, nagtagal na, nangangamoy, dahil yun sa urea, no? Okay, so yun, lumalabas yung ammonia sa urea kaya mapanghe, no? So, ganun yung nangyari dito. So, ginawa ni Friedrich Wöhler from an inorganic compound which is found in minerals, no? Wala namang buhay yung mineral, di ba? Ininit niya yun, then eventually may na-form siyang organic compound, something na mapanghe, which is yung urea. Nag-isip siya. Kasi sabi niya, di ba, bawal ka makagawa ng organic compounds out of your inorganic compounds. Hindi ka pwede makagawa niyan. Ano daw yung pwede gumawa niyan? Vital force lang, no? Yung urea sa katawan natin that is created because of the biological processes sa katawan natin, no? Yung paggawa ng ating mga amino acids, naglalabas yun ng urea, which is excreted through our urine, no? Pero eto, hindi to natural process. Ininit niya lang, di ba? Then, may nagawa siyang organic compound. So, napaisip siya. Ibig sabihin, yung vitalism ay fake lang, no? So, fake siyang paniniwala at nililimit niya yung understanding ng tao towards our chemicals, no? Towards organic compounds, no? So, yun. So, si Friedrich Wöhler ay isang successful na chemist dahil doon. Kasi yun nga, napatunayan niya na yung vitalism ay peke lang, no? Mali yung idea ng vitalism. Rather, we can create organic compounds from inorganic substances with just proper experimentation, no? Kailangan may proper methods in creating organic compounds out of your inorganic substances. So wala talagang vital force. Hindi siya misteryong nabubuo na lang, no? May correct process lang na dinadaanan for your substances para maging organic, no? Ibig sabihin, pwede pa rin naman to gawin, no? Ibang process nga lang yung dadaanan niya. Hindi mo siya bubuga-bugahan lang, no? May ibang way, no, to make CO2 and H2O combine to form glucose, no? So yun yung idea nila, no? Then after Friedrich Wöhler's idea na na-debunk na yung vitalism, ayun na, nagkalat na yung mga understanding sa OrgChem. And then we came up with 10 million compounds na alam na natin ngayon, no? So yun yung history ng OrgChem, no? So nag-umpisa siya sa belief of the unknown, no? Which is the vitalism. Then that was tested by Friedrich Wöhler. Then yun, ayun na, may organic chemistry na tayo na inaaral today, no? Okay, so yan. Punta naman tayo sa next topic, no? So, during that time, no, during sa panahon ni Wöhler and beyond, no, inaaral na nila kung paano nabubuo yung matter natin, paano nabubuo yung compounds natin. So, according to some chemists such as Kekulé, no, ang ating compounds sa paligid, they are composed of atoms that are bonded together, no? So, yun yung idea din nila Democritus tuloy. Yun yung mga idea din nila Dalton, di ba? Na yung ating compounds, they are created when you combine atoms of different elements, no? So, sa organic compounds, ganun din, no? So, for example, we have these molecules, no? Yung ating atoms na yan, these organic molecules are created by combining atoms lang, na. So, yan. So, ito yung dalawang example natin, the dimethyl ether and ethanol. Paano nabubuo yung ating mga molecules, no? So, according to the structural theory of matter, yung ating atoms daw ay meron silang characteristic, no? Meron silang limit sa pag-form ng bonds, no? So, ito yung idea din ni Lewis sa paggawa niya ng Lewis structure, di ba? Ito yung valency. So, dati may idea na sila sa valency. Ni-refine lang ni Lewis, no? So, ano yung idea nila, no? So, sabi nila, yung atoms daw, may certain possible connections siyang pwedeng gawin. So, pwede mo i-connecta yung atoms by default, no? May limit yung kanyang pwedeng pagdugtungan, no? So, for example, we have carbon. Sabi dyan, carbon is tetravalent. So, ano meaning ng tetravalent? So, tetra, apat. Valent, pwede kabitan. So, that means the carbon can generally be connected with 4 bonds, no? So, yan. Which is also true for the Lewis structure. Kasi bakit, di ba? Ang Lewis structure ng carbon may 4 dots. Yung kada dot, pwede mo yan dugtungan ng isa pang electron to create a single bond, no? So that means carbon can form 4 bonds talaga, no? So yun daw yung behavior ni carbon by default, no? It can create 4 bonds, no? So that is true for group 4 atoms, no? Carbon, silicon, etc. No? Next naman is the trivalent atoms, no? Such as the group 5 elements, no? Nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. Sabi nila, by default, your group 5 atoms, such as nitrogen, can only form 3 bonds. No? Pwede siya makagawa ng 3 bonds. And that is also found true sa Lewis structure. No? Ang Lewis dot symbol ng nitrogen ay 5 dot. No? 2 of which are paired. No? Paired yung dalawa. Then you have your single dots for you have your 3 single dots for the nitrogen atom. So that means dito pwede kumabit yung isang electron to create bonds, no? So tama naman yung idea nila dati, no? That group 5 atoms are trivalent. So ibig sabihin they can create 3 bonds, no? Okay. Next one is divalent. So ito yung mga group 6 atoms natin such as oxygen. Oxygen, if we draw the Lewis structure, meron tayong dalawang lone pair and 2 single dots. Those single dots can create bonds. No? Pwede sila makagawa ng bonds. Anyway. So, pwede tayong mag-create ng bonds. No? Pwede tayong mag-create ng bonds out of these 2 single electrons. Ano? So, that's why it is called divalent. Dalawa lang yung pwede niyang dugtungan. Okay? Then last one is the monovalent. Ano yung monovalent? Mono, isa lang. So ito daw yung mga atoms that can only create one bond. No? For example, hydrogen. Totoo naman na isang bond lang kaya niya gawin. No? That is found true due to Lewis idea, no? Yung mga Lewis dot structures niya. So isang bond lang pwede niya gawin. Similarly, yung halides natin, mga fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, they can also form one bond. No? For example, let's have chlorine. May 7 valence electrons yan, 3 of which are paired. Yung isa ay waiting to be paired, no? Ay nag-aantay siya ng kapartner niya. So isang bond lang yung pwede niya gawin talaga, no? So yun yung idea nila before, no? That by default you can connect your atoms in certain number of bonds, no? With certain number of bonds. So for carbon, that's tetravalent, 4 yung bonds na kaya niya gawin by default. Nitrogen, 3 yung bonds na kaya niya gawin by default. Oxygen, 2 bonds yung kaya niya gawin by default. And your hydrogen and halide, tig-isang bond yung kaya nila gawin by default. No? So, yun yung understanding nila. And when you connect those bonds, when you connect those lines, no? Pag pinagdugtong-dugtong mo yung mga lines na yan, ng mga atoms na yan, you can create your organic compounds. No? Okay, so yan. Punta naman tayo dito. No? So, our organic compounds can be represented with the following structures. No? Although this will be discussed in depth sa inyong hydrocarbons sa laboratory. I don't know if nakapag-start na kayo, pero yun. I-discuss to sa lab. No? Pero dadaanan natin. No? We can represent our organic molecules with molecular representations. No? So, ito yung mga option natin sa OrgChem in representing our molecules. No? We can have Lewis structures, partially condensed structure, and molecular formula. And also, we have a line angle formula. No? Mamaya, pakita ko kung ano itsura nan. So, for now, dito muna tayo. So, ito yung ating Lewis structure. What we can observe here is that we can see which atoms are bonded to what atom. No? So, alam natin kung sino yung nakabond sa kung sino man. For example, this carbon is bonded to these 3 hydrogens and to this carbon, etc., etc. No? Makikita natin yung complete picture ng bonded atoms for the Lewis structure. Ito naman, this is another way of representing molecules sa organic chemistry, the partially condensed structure. Ano yung difference niya with the Lewis structure? Ito. Usually, for the partially condensed structure, yung bonds with hydrogen ay hindi na pinapakita. Usually, no? For example, itong 3 hydrogen dito, kinondense yan as H3C. That means the 3 hydrogens are bonded to this carbon. Okay? So itong hydrogen na yan, yung tatlong yan, bonded dito kay carbon. These three hydrogens here sa right side, they are bonded to this carbon naman. So you have your CH3 there. Ito pinakita lang dyan, no? Okay. Then itong OH, no? Ibig sabihin yan, yung hydrogen mo that is bonded to your oxygen atom, no? So mostly, yung ating hydrogens, hindi na natin pinapakita as bonded, no? Pinapatabi na lang natin sila kung sinong atom yung dinudugtungan nila, no? Nakatabi lang sila dun sa atom na dinudugtungan nila. So that's your partially condensed structure. Okay? Next one is the condensed structure. So ito, from your partially condensed structure, gagawin mo siyang one-liner formula. No? Isang line lang yung formula mo. Okay? So paano yan? Ganito. So tignan mo. Dito sa central carbon natin, we have two CH3 groups attached to it. We can represent those two CH3s as this one, CH3 parenthesis 2. Ibig sabihin nun, may dalawang CH3. Saan sila bonded? Sa carbon, ayan. So, saan ito bonded? Sa carbon na ayan. Such as shown here, no? Itong dalawang CH3, they are bonded here. Yung hydrogen, kanino bonded? Sa kanya din, kay carbon. Yung OH, this serves as a group, no? Group yung OH na yan, no? So, yung group ng OH, saan sila nakabond? Doon din sa carbon na iyon, no? So, mapapansin natin, sa condensed structure, hindi na pinapakita kung kanino nakadugtong yung mga atoms, no? Parang automatically, kailangan alam mo na itong mga to nakadugtong dito sa central atom, sa central carbon. So, yung dalawang CH3, ano ba yan? Ay, kamali ng pindot. So, itong dalawang CH3, saan sila nakadugtong? Diyan, yung hydrogen, diyan din. Itong group ng OH, doon din nakakonect, no? So, yun yung understanding kapag condensed structure, no? You will discover this more sa inyong laboratory, no? Pag nag-start na kayo ng hydrocarbons. And lastly, one way to represent molecules sa OrgChem is by the molecular formula. So, ano yung molecular formula? Binibilang niya yung dami ng atom lang. Kunwari, C3H8O, yun na yun. So, sabi niya, may 3 carbon ka, may 8 kang hydrogens, and may 1 kang oxygen atom. What's the failure of ano yung failure ng molecular formula when it comes to organic compounds? No? Ito yung isang failure niya. Okay? So, the failure of molecular formulas sa OrgChem is that it doesn't tell us kung ano yung connection ng atoms. No? Hindi natin alam kung saan nakakonect yung oxygen, saan nakakonect yung hydrogen, saan nakakonect yung carbon. And with that issue, makakagawa tayo ng tinatawag nating isomers. So makakagawa tayo ng isomers. Since hindi natin alam kung paano sila connected, pwede tayo makagawa ng wide variety ng connection ng atoms, no? For example, the formula for dimethyl ether and ethanol, parehas yang C2H6O. Parehas yang C2H6O. Okay. C2H6O. Parehas yang C2H6O. Ano yung difference nila? Since wala tayong idea kung ano yung connection ng atoms na pinapakita sa partially condensed at condensed structure and Lewis structure, so ito lang binigay sa atin, we can create wide variety of molecules. No? For example, ito nga. Pwedeng yung oxygen natin nasa gitna ng dalawang CH3. That will still give us the formula C2H6O. Pwede naman yung oxygen nasa gitna ng carbon and hydrogen. That will give us the same formula. However, magkakaiba sila ng connection. When we have the same formula but different connection, we call them isomers. No? Specifically, they are called constitutional isomers. No? Constitutional isomers. Ano meaning ng constitution sa OrgChem? No? Constitution means connection. So, hindi siya yung constitution na nasa Republika ng Pilipinas, ha? So, pag sinabing constitutional isomers, connection isomers. Same formula, different connections, no? So, yun yung failure ng molecular formula. That's why sa OrgChem, mostly, ang nakikita natin na representation ay condensed structure, partially condensed structure, or Lewis structure. Another way to represent organic molecules is by using the line angle structure. Ang tawag ng iba dyan ay bond line structure. No? So, ano yung tsura niyan? Yan yung nakikita nyo, zigzag. No? So, yung mga zigzag na yan, may corresponding meaning yan, no? Which is yung lecture, yung lab na bahala mag-discuss, no? So, at each point of your zigzag, may corresponding meaning yan, no? So, for example, ditong nasa right side, itong zigzag na to, we can interpret this as carbon chain. Pwede yung maging carbon chain. Okay? For example, itong carbon na to, connected yan sa carbon na yun, no? Each point of the zigzag, may carbon doon. So, dito, isang point, may carbon dyan, may carbon doon, may carbon dito, may carbon doon, may carbon doon. So, basically, this molecule contains 5 carbons. Paano naman itong zigzag na to? Ilang carbon meron dyan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 carbons yung meron dyan, no? Okay? So, you will understand this in depth sa laboratory niyo, no? Kung paano magdodraw ng line angle structure. Okay? So, bakit maraming options sa OrgChem when representing molecules? Kasi, ganito. If simple lang yung molecules mo, better if you draw the Lewis structure. However, if your molecules become bigger and bigger and bigger, pag lumalaki na yung molecule mo, nakapagod mag-draw ng Lewis structure. Masyadong crowded na, no? Yung magiging structure mo. Hindi mo na siya maintindihan. So instead, we use these condensed structures or we use the line angle structure in representing molecules na mahaba yung carbon chain. Okay? So, ganun. So, maraming way tayo to represent our molecules in OrgChem. We do not use molecular formula at most. Hindi yan preferred because pwede tayong magkaroon ng issues such as isomers, no? So they have the same formula pero iiba yung kanilang properties, iiba yung kanilang connection, no? So instead, we use these these 4, Lewis structure, partially condensed structure, and line angle structure or bond line structure. So yan yung mga options natin sa OrgChem. So pag may nakita kayong zigzag, may meaning yan. Okay? Kada end niyan may carbon, na? So, ganun. So, balik tayo dito sa issue ng ng isomers natin. So, for example, we have this formula C3H8O. Pwede, ang maging structure niya ay yung tatlong carbon, dugtong-dugtong, yung OH nasa dulo, then yung hydrogens nasa paligid, no? So, this molecule is called propanol. Sa future niyo malalaman kung paano magpangalan, no? Sa laboratory din. Okay? So, yan. So, ang pangalan niya ay Gemerlin. Propanol yan. So, yung tatlong carbon magkakadugtong, yung hydrogens nakadugtong kay carbon, then yung OH magkasama. Another version of this molecule is to draw this one. Instead of yung OH nasa dulo, ilalagay mo siya sa gitna. So, iba yung connection nila, di ba? Kasi ito nasa dulo, ito nasa gitna. So, they are isomers. At iba din yung pangalan nila. So, this is propanol. Ito si isopropanol. So, magkaiba sila ng properties. Ito yung nasa alcohol natin sa yung panlinis natin sa basta yun, yung alcohol na ginagamit nyo. Isopropanol yun. Okay? Another way, no, to draw this molecule with the formula C3H8O is this one. Yung oxygen ay sandwich between 2 carbon atoms. If we have this format, then we have an ether. Ethyl-methyl ether ang pangalan niya. So each compound may different characteristic, may different properties sila. So, yun yung failure ng molecular formula. So molecular formulas, hindi sila enough to distinguish what molecule are you pertaining to. No? So, kailangan i-represent natin yung molecules as Lewis structures or condensed structures or line angle structures talaga. Practice tayo. Okay? So, practice tayo sa paggawa ng isomers. Di ko sasagutan lahat ha. So, we have 6 formulas here. And let's try to create isomers. No? Ano kaya mga pwedeng combination ng atoms ang gagawin natin gawin? No? Okay? So, let's start with this one. Ay, hindi. Ito na yun. Ito na yung previous, di ba? CH3O. Oh, yun na nga yan. So, wala na yung 1. Nasagutan na eh. So, kunwari, sagutan ko tong 2 and 4. O, yan lang muna. Sagutan ko yung 2 and 4. Try natin gumawa ng isomers out of that. No? So, yung isomers, madidiscuss yan in depth sa chapter 6 ng lab nyo. No? Anyway, pahapyawan natin. Number 2, C3H7Cl. So, paano tayo makakagawa ng molecules out of this? Remember the structural theory of matter. Yung atoms natin may fixed bonds siyang pwedeng gawin. Yung carbon, ilang bonds kaya niya gawin? 4. Yung hydrogen, ilan? 1. And yung Cl, since yan ay halide, 1 lang din. Okay? So, ang pwede natin gawin dito to draw this molecule, yung carbon ay usually pinagdudugtong-dugtong. So, pag dugtong-dugtongin ang carbon. Itong carbon sa left, ilang bond meron na siya? 1 bond pa lang. Ilan yung pwede? 4. So, ibig sabihin yan, kulang pa yan ng 4 na lines. Okay, so yan. Tetravalent na yung carbon mo. Yung isa nagamit na to bond with this carbon sa right side, yung tatlo ay waiting pa para maging bonded. Okay? How about this one? The middle carbon, may 2 na siyang existing na bonds. Ilan yung kaya? 4. So that means we can add 2 more bonds, no? 2 more vacant bonds, no? For this carbon. Pwede pa siya mag-attach sa 2 atoms, no? Or group of atoms. This carbon on the rightmost side, may 1 line na yan. So, kailangan pa niya ng 3 to preserve its valency. Okay? So, ganyan yung paggawa ng organic molecules. Basically, ano nang papansin nyo? Gumagawa tayo ng Lewis structure. Pero this time, hindi na kailangan mag-NASU rule. No? Hindi na kailangan mag-NASU rule dito. Graduate na kayo doon. Ganito lang kailangan nyo gawin sa OrgChem. Okay? So, yan. So, ganun yung usually na ginagawa. Yung carbons, pagdugtong-dugtongin mo. Then, saka mo i-distribute yung ibang atom. Yung hydrogen, saan yan nilalagay? Usually sa dulo ni carbon. May 7 tayong hydrogen na pwede i-distribute. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So, we are left with Cl. Yung Cl, 1 bond lang pwede niya gawin. Pwede idugtong yun dito. Okay? So, this is one structure with the formula C3H7Cl. So, yan yung isang formula na may ganyang structure. Yung Cl ay nakadugtong sa dulo. Ano pa kaya pwede natin gawin dyan? Pwede yung Cl, hindi ko siya i-connect sa dulo. Pwede ko i-connect siya sa gitna. So, try natin. So, instead of connecting your Cl sa dulong carbon, ilalagay natin siya sa gitna. Question. Are the 2 isomers? Isomer kaya yung dalawang yan? Opo. So, parehas silang isomer. Bakit? Kasi, yes, they have the same formula. However, the connectivities are different. Yung Cl dito, nasa dulo nakalagay. Yung Cl dito, nasa gitna. Magkaiba ng position yung Cl. Magkaibang carbons yung dinudugtungan nila. Rather, but may rather. Ibig sabihin nun, ibig sabihin nun ay magkaiba sila ng chemical properties. Magkaiba sila ng pangalan, no? Pinagpalit mo lang ng pwesto, iba na yung anyo niya, no? So, ganun. Change person na siya kung nagpalit lang ng pwesto, no? So, change identity na siya. Okay? So, yun yung idea ng isomers. Now, by just changing the original position of your atom, pwedeng magkaroon ng isomer. Different compound, same formula. Different properties as well. Okay? Pwede po kaya yung Cl ilagay ko dito sa dulo? Wala naman nagbabawal sa'yo. Pwede naman. Pero ang question, is that an isomer? Kunwari yung Cl nilagay ko dito sa dulo, isomer ba nito iyon? The answer is no. Hindi siya isomer. Bakit? Kasi yung Cl, pag nilagay mo sa right end, that is similar as writing your Cl on the leftmost end. Kumbaga, flinip mo lang yung molecule mo, 180 degrees, no? Parang binaliktad mo yung paper mo. So, pag binaliktad mo itong paper na yan, yung Cl, saan siya mapupunta? Sa right side, no? So, kapag itong Cl nilagay mo sa dulo, that is the same as this one. So, they are not isomers. However, itong nasa baba, pag binaliktad mo to, hindi siya parehas dito. So, they are not really the same at all. So, they are isomers talaga. Okay? So, that's one way for you to check kung may isomers or wala. No? You imagine your molecules as nasa papel, bali-baliktarin mo yan. No? Ayan, so ganun lang. Try ko pa isa. Number 4. So I have C4H10O, 4 na carbon, 10 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. Ano yung default connections nila? Carbon, 4, hydrogen, 1, oxygen, 2. Okay? So yung default connections natin. Ano namang gagawin? Yung carbon, pagdugtong-dugtongin. So yun yung first step. Ilang bonds pa kaya nito? 3 pa. Bakit? Kasi may isa na siya, 4 yung kaya, so pwede pa yung 3. Kung nasa gitna, ilan pa? 2 pa. Kasi may 2 ng bond. So, para maging 4 yan, maglagay ka pa ng 2 bakanteng bonds. Same as this one and this one, no? So, ganun. Okay, so yan. Nakumpleto na natin yung valency ng ating carbons. Next one is yung hydrogen. Ilagay mo na sila. Usually, yung hydrogen nilalagay sa dulo ni carbon. E di, i-place natin doon. Naka-9 na akong carbon, no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Pag nilagay ko yung hydrogen dito, kumpleto na yung molecule ko. However, yung oxygen, malungkot. Kasi hindi siya nakasama. Ano pwede ko gawin? Pwede, before ko ilagay yung hydrogen dito, instead na yung hydrogen ilalagay ko dyan, yung oxygen na lang, na. You can see, preserved pa rin yung valency. The oxygen is bonded to carbon and hydrogen. 2 yung bonds na pwede niya gawin. So, conserve pa rin yung valency, no? And wala tayong unpaired na line. Wala tayong unpaired na bond, no? So, yeah. This is one formula for this. This is one structure for this formula, no? Wherein your OH is at the end. No? Or what if ito, ilagay mo dito? Same lang yon. Kunwari yung OH, ilagay ko dito sa taas or dito sa baba. Same lang yon. Kasi saan sila connected? Sa iisang carbon atom. So, hindi isomers yan, porket ito nilagay mo sa taas, isomer yon. Hindi. Kailangan ibang carbon yung dugtungan nila para maging isomer. Okay? So, ganun. Itong OH, ilagay ko yan dito sa baba. Same lang yan as dito and kung nasa taas siya. Same yan. Ano pa yung pwede kong gawing isomer? Pwede yung OH ipagpalit ko dito. Itong H na to, mag-switch places sila. Okay? So by switching them, we still maintain the valency naman. Now, let me draw that. Na. Ayan. So itong OH na to, instead of placing this on the last carbon, nilagay ko siya dito sa katabi niyang carbon. Isomer yan. Bakit? Kasi magkaiba ng connectivity. Ito nasa dulo, ito nasa ikalawa sa dulo or ikatlos mula sa left na. Okay? So ganun. So this is another isomer for this formula. Pwede po kaya, sir, ito ilagay mo dito. Isomer din kaya yan. Ano sagot? Hindi. Bakit hindi? No? Kasi if I place my OH here, that is the same as writing my OH here. Parang flinip mo lang uli yung paper. Kasi kapag andito yung OH, pag binaliktad mo yung molecule, mapupunta siya sa right side. Ito naman, kapag binaliktad mo yan, mapupunta siya sa left side. So, hindi isomer kapag yung OH nilagay mo dito. Tapos yung isa nandito. Hindi. Hindi yan isomer. Same lang yan. Okay? So, ganun lang. Ano pa yung pwede natin gawin dito? Siyempre, yung OH, pag nilagay ko dito, same lang yun as dito. Pag yung OH nilagay ko sa dulo, that's the same as this one. So, hindi yun isomers. Another way to draw the isomer of this compound is instead yung oxygen ay in between carbon and hydrogen, isa-sandwich ko siya sa dalawang carbon. Gagawin ko yan, ha? Okay, so yan. So, ano ginawa ko dito? So, my oxygen is bonded between two carbon atoms. Bonded sila with two carbon atoms. Yung hydrogens, nalagay pa rin naman natin lahat ng 10. This is 4, this is 4, 1 plus 1, 10, no? So, yan. So, yan, maintained pa rin yung valency ng oxygen. Dalawang bonds pa rin kaya niya gawin, no? Okay? So, this is another isomer of this formula. Bakit iba yung connectivity, no? Ano pa kaya pwede natin gawin? Lagay ko dito sa gitna na ito. Pwede rin, no? Actually, alam ko naman yung structure. Kunwari lang di ko alam. Si Dora, no? Nakikita niyo ba yung mga ganito? Tapos sasagutin ko rin, opo. Ayan, hydrogen, 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 hydrogen. Ay, ano ba yan? Nagsara yung PowerPoint. Nakakainis. Ayoko na. Nakastress yan na. Nasave ba? Ay, attitude talaga ng PowerPoint na to. Wala, ayoko na. Hindi, joke lang. Ay, nako. From the start. Anyway, andito na tayo, di ba? Ano yun? Kalimutan ko tuloy. So, ito yung una. Kung kailan patapos na yun, no? Ay, nako. Bill Gates. Ayan yung una. Yung ikalawa, yung OH nasa taas. Ano yung katlo? Yung O nasa gitna ng dalawang C. And yung gagawin ko sana, tapos biglang nagsara yung PowerPoint, itong oxygen nasa gitna nito. Okay. Teka lang. Okay. So yan. So we have all the four versions ng ating compound with the formula C4H10O na. So yan yung apat na versions niya. Yung OH nasa dulo, yung OH nandito. Pag ito nilagay mo yung OH dyan, that's the same as this one. Pag yung OH nilagay mo sa dulo, that is the same as this one. Okay, so itong dalawa lang yung isomers na OH, yung nasa dulo. Ano pa? Yung oxygen, andito siya sa dulo, banda. So, nasa gitna siya ng dalawang carbon na to. What if ito, sir, ilagay ko dito? That's the same as this one. Kapag itong molecule na to, binaliktad mo yan, yung COC bond, mapupunta dito sa left side. Okay? So, kapag itong oxygen, nilagay mo sa pagitan nito, that's the same as this one. Okay? So, kailangan i-imagine nyo yung molecule pag binalibaliktad nyo yung molecule nyo. No? Ito naman, this is different with this one. Kasi ito, may tatlo sa kabila, may isa sa gilid. Ito, may tig-dalawa. So, ibig sabihin, ibang molecule talaga yan. No? Okay, so pangalan yan, diethyl ether. No? So, yan. So, this is different with this one. This is different with this one. And this is different with this one. No? So, we have 4 isomers for the formula C4H10O. You will discover more of the isomers sa inyong lecture, no? Especially isomers ng alkane. Okay? Pag di pa na-discuss sa lecture, pwede nyo naman panoorin sa YouTube ko na popost ko mamaya yung lesson ko doon. Alkanes. Anyway, moving on. Kung napapansin nyo, there are certain group of atoms na magkasama by default. Example nun yung OH. Tingnan mo. Yung OH, magkasama talaga sila minsan. So, pag magkasama sila, then they serve as what's called the functional group. So, sila ay partner ng atoms, no? So, sila ay group ng atoms that serves as one unit, no? So, sila yung isang idudugtong mo sa molecule mo. So, ano meron sa mga functional groups? Yun nga, fix yung kanilang connections. OH, OH talaga yan. Di mo sila pwede paghinawalayan. So, yun yung functional group na yan. Then, since meron siyang fixed na atom na katabi, meron din siyang characteristics, no? Predictable characteristics na physical or chemical property, no? For example, yung alcohol natin, itong OH, i-compare natin yan with this atom. This OH can perform hydrogen bond. No, pwede yung mag-hydrogen bond. No? Kunwari, nagulat pa ako. No? That can perform hydrogen bond kasi may OH ka. No? Pero, itong oxygen dito that is connected with 2 carbons, dipole lang yan. Ito, hydrogen bond. Dipole-dipole interaction, hydrogen bonding. Okay? So, mapapansin nyo, pag magkasama yung mga atoms sa isang functional group, may certain behavior sila. Kahit saan mo man ilagay yan sa iyong molecule. Ayan, magpo-form yan ng hydrogen bond. Ito, magpo-form yan ng hydrogen bond. Pero pag pinaghiwalay mo sila, hindi na sila magpo-form ng hydrogen bond. Okay? Ayan. We call those group of atoms that behave similarly, no, that possesses this property. We call them the functional groups. No? And functional groups are important because as long as you determine kung anong functional group meron ka, you can predict kung ano yung chemical reaction na pwede niya gawin. You can also predict kailan siya magbo-boil, kailan siya mag-freeze, kailan siya magme-melt. No? Intermolecular forces of attraction yon. Okay? So, kumbaga, as long as you recognize your functional groups, pwede mo malaman yung behavior ng entire molecule. No? So, ano ba yung mga functional groups natin sa chapter na to? I mean, sa lesson na to. So we have the following functional groups which we will discuss one by one na in the future. Pero sa ngayon, pasadahan natin. Okay? 1 hour pa lang naman. Okay. Sakit na ng lalamunan ko. So this is the first functional group. We have here the alcohol. So kapag alcohol, ang atom na magkadugtong by default is the OH. We have this example, ethanol. Ito yung nasa alak. Ito yung nakakalasing. So yan. So OH, no, yung functional group doon, magkasama talaga yan. No, kahit saan ilagay mo yan, basta magkatabi yung OH, may alcohol ka. Okay? The next functional group is the amine. Amine. NH2 ang magkasama doon. Okay? Kahit saan mo yan ilagay, basta may NH2, may amine ka. One example is the ethylamine. Next one, aldehyde. Sa aldehyde, ito naman yung functional group mo. C, double bond O, then may H. Magkasama sila by default. Itong tatlong atoms yan, magkasama talaga yan. C, double bond O, and H. No? Magkakasama yung mga yan. No? So yan, magkakasama sila. So yan, they serve as a functional group. No? One example is the acetaldehyde. Isang example ay formaldehyde, no? Yung formalin. Okay, yung mga aldehyde kasi maamoy yan. May mabango, may amoy patay. Yan. So yung mga maamoy na compound, usually aldehyde yan. Yung amine din, no? Okay. Itong ketone naman, ang magkasama dyan parati ay C double bond O. For example, acetone. Yung ginagamit nyo sa kuko nyo. So yan, acetone. Okay? So magkasama dyan, ang functional group mo ay C double bond O. Pag aldehyde, C double bond O, H. So check nyo yung difference ha. Ito may H, ito wala. Okay? So ketone, walang H. C double bond O lang. Next one is the carboxylic acid. So ano meron sa carboxylic acid? Dalawa yan. May C double bond O ka and may OH ka pa. Hindi ito alcohol Kasi since may katabi siyang C double bond O, it serves as another functional group which we call the carboxylic acid. One example is yung suka, acetic acid. And pag natikman nyo yung suka, lasang carboxylic acid yan. So yan. So ito yung mga magkakasama, C double bond O, OH by default. Pag OH lang yan, alcohol yan. Pag C double bond O lang yan, ketone yan. Pero pag magkakasama to, siya ay carboxylic acid. And next one is an ester. Meron kang C double bond O, O, then R. Ano yung R? Any carbon groups yon. Puro carbon yon. Hindi siya pwede maging hydrogen. Kasi kapag hydrogen to, magiging carboxylic acid yon. Ayaw natin yon. So, itong R, that tells you, puro carbon yung nandun. No? Itong mga dash naman dito sa left, puro carbon din yung nandun. Okay? So, yan. So, that's our ester. Okay, so yun, ito pa pala, meron pa sa baba. The next one, or the last one, would be the amides. No? Similar siya with amine, NH2. However, may C double bond O. C double bond O, NH2. Pag NH2 lang yan, amine yan. Pag may double bond O, C double bond O, amide yan. One example is the acetamide. No? Okay. Mga nababasa nyo sa mga gamot-gamot. No? May mga ganyan-ganyan yan. Okay? So, yan. So, yan yung 7 functional groups which we will all discuss in the future. No? So, for now, kailangan kabisado nyo na kung ano yung tawag sa mga functional groups. Na? So, kayo na bahala kung paano nyo i-memorize yan. Pwede nyo naman i-save tong slide na to sa cellphone nyo. O, isa-isahin natin yung mga alcohols para may preview na tayo ng lesson natin in the future. Okay. So, let's have alcohols. No? Sabi natin, our alcohols are molecules in which your O and H are bonded together. Yun yung functional group. No? So, yan. So, may hydroxyl group ka dyan, may OH group ka that is connected to carbon. No? Yung alcohols natin, we can classify them as primary alcohol, secondary alcohol, or tertiary alcohol. Paano natin malalaman if our alcohol is primary, secondary, or tertiary? So, ganito. Tignan mo kung anong carbon yung dinudugtungan ng OH mo. For example, ito. This OH is bonded to this carbon. Then, bilangin mo ilang carbon yung nakadugtong sa carbon na to. Ilang carbon nakadugtong dyan? Isa lang. Kasi dalawang H yun eh. So, may isa kang carbon connected to this carbon kung saan nakakonect yung OH. No? So, if ganyan yung case, no, that's a primary alcohol. Yung OH nakadugtong sa carbon, tapos yung carbon na yun nakadugtong sa isa lang na carbon. Primary alcohol yon. Another way to check kung yan ay primary alcohol, which is, ito yung ginagawa ko eh. I check the hydrogens. Okay, so i-check ko yung hydrogens. If I have 2 hydrogen atoms sa carbon na dinudugtungan ng aking OH, primary yon, no? So yan, doon sa primary alcohol. So ano yung way natin to check kung primary alcohol? Kung ilan yung carbon connected to this carbon, no? Na dinudugtungan ng OH, or pwede yung hydrogens, no? Kung saan nakadugtong yung OH natin. Okay, so yan. Pag dalawang hydrogen, primary. Pag isang carbon yung nakadugtong sa carbon, primary. How about the secondary? So sa secondary naman, may dalawang carbons connected to the carbon to which your OH is connected. Sana hindi kayo nalilito doon, no? May dalawang carbon na nakadugtong sa carbon kung saan nakadugtong ang OH, no? So since dalawa yan, edi secondary yon. Okay? Ako, ang ginagawa ko, binibilang ko talaga yung H, no? So yung H, ilang H meron ako dito sa carbon, kung nasan yung OH, isa lang. So kapag isa lang yung H ko, secondary yan. Kanya-kanyang trip, no? Ako gusto ko yung H bilangin eh. Pwede kayo, magbilang kayo ng carbon, no? Basta same yung answer natin. Ito naman, tertiary alcohol. So kapag tertiary alcohol, the carbon at which your OH is attached, mayroong tatlong carbon na nakakonect sa kanya. Itong carbon, kung nasaan yung OH, may tatlong carbons connected to it. So pag ganon, tertiary alcohol yan. Ayan, diba may tatlong carbon connected to this carbon. So that's a tertiary alcohol. Sa point of view naman ng hydrogen, pag walang hydrogen nakatabi yung carbon na yan, zero yung hydrogen, tertiary alcohol yan. Okay? So kayo bahala kung ano pipiliin nyo, based on the carbons or based on the hydrogens. No? Up to you. Okay? So let's try to do this example. So draw the Lewis structure and the condensed structural formulas for the two alcohols with the molecular formula C3H8O. Sagutan na naman to kanina, di ba? Pero gawin pa rin natin. So ano gagawin natin? Sabi dito, ito daw ay alcohol. So that means yung O and H magkasama na automatically. So gagawin natin from the formula, tatanggalin na natin yung OH. I-minus na natin yung dito. So, ano yung mga atoms na matitira? C3H7. So, itong C3H7, yan yung aayusin natin. Yung OH sa dulo na natin ikakabit. Okay? So, i-arrange natin yung C3H7. So, paano yan ina-arrange? Yung carbons, magkakadugtong. Then, ilagay mo yung 4 na bonds ng carbon. Then, saka mo ilagay yung hydrogen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And finally, yung OH mo. Okay? So, yan. So, that's one structure for this alcohol. Ano pa yung pwede gawin? Dalawa daw eh. Dalawang alcohol daw pwede natin gawin. Pwede yung OH, ilagay natin sa gitna. Magkipag-switch siya ng places with that hydrogen. So, gawin natin yon. Okay. So, yan. So, pinag-switch natin ng places yung H and OH. No? So, originally, nasa dulo siya. Ngayon, nasa gitna siya. Pag ito nilagay natin dito, that's the same as this one. If i-flip mo lang yung molecule mo. Okay? So, yan. So, those are the Lewis structure for our alcohols. No? By just looking, is this primary, secondary, tertiary? That's primary. Bakit? Kasi yung carbon, kung saan nakadugtong yung OH, ay may isang carbon na nakadugtong doon. Or kung hydrogen yung basis nyo, kunwari ginagaya nyo, kung hydrogen yung gusto mo bilangin, itong OH na to, sa carbon na nakadugtong siya, may dalawang hydrogen doon. Okay? So pag may dalawang hydrogen, primary. Pag isang carbon yung nakadugtong sa carbon, primary as well. So this is a primary alcohol. About this one. This is a secondary alcohol. Paano naging secondary yan? Yung carbon to which your OH is connected ay may dalawa pang carbon. 1, 2. Kaya secondary. Kung gusto niyo naman yung hydrogen yung bibilangin, kapag isang hydrogen lang yung meron sa carbon to which your OH is attached, no? To which your OH is attached, pag isa lang yan, secondary yan. Okay? So that is our Lewis structure. Now, how are we going to draw the condensed structural formula? Paano yan? Kung naalala nyo pa, yung kanina, sabi ko left to right yan. Pero kung hindi na, okay lang. No? So, gagawin natin yung condensed structural formula. Ano meron doon? Yung hydrogens ay hindi pinapakita. No? So, kumbaga, sasabihin lang natin kung ilang hydrogens yung connected to this atom, to this carbon. Let's start here sa primary alcohol, left to right. So this is C. Sulat mo yan, C. Ilang hydrogen meron sa paligid niya? Sa dalawa, tatlo. So that's CH3. Next carbon, C. Ilang hydrogen meron sa paligid? Dalawa. CH2. Next carbon, may dalawa na namang hydrogen. Then finally, your OH. So the condensed structural formula for this molecule is CH3, CH2, CH2, OH. How about this one? I'll start from the left. CH3, CH, CH3. Sir, ano nangyari sa OH? Yung OH, pwede mo ilagay dito. Pwede mo siya idugtong doon. That means yung OH ay nandito sa carbon na ito. Okay? Wala siya sa dulo. Andyan siya. Ayun. So, ayun ang ating condensed structural formula for the two compounds. Na? Yun lang. Amines tayo. So, next one is the amines. Ang amine, NH2 ang meron. Though, may versions uli yan. Ano yung mga versions ng amine? We can have a primary amine, secondary amine, or tertiary amine. Paano mo malalaman kung primary, secondary amine ang meron ka? Just check the hydrogens. Ito yung dahilan bakit hydrogen yung pinipili ko. Kasi universal siya. Pwede mo siya gamitin sa alcohol. Pwede mo rin gamitin sa amine. Tapos mamaya, pwede mo rin siya gamitin sa amides. No? Okay. Mamaya makikita nyo kung paano. For example, this amine. Bibilangin mo kung gaano karaming hydrogen ang meron sa nitrogen. 'Di ba sa alcohol yun sa katabing carbon tinitignan. Dito, hindi. Yung nitrogen mismo yung bibilangan mo ng ng hydrogen na. So itong nitrogen na to may dalawang hydrogen. So kapag dalawang hydrogen yan, primary. Okay? Pag isang hydrogen lang yung meron sa kanya, secondary. Pag walang hydrogen, tertiary. 'Di ba same lang ng logic sa alcohol? Pag dalawang hydrogen, primary. Pag isa, secondary. Pag wala, tertiary. So, ganun din sa amines. No? Okay? So, that's how we classify our amines. No? Just count the hydrogen atoms connected to your nitrogen. Okay? Okay, so let's try to draw this. Draw the condensed structural formulas For the two primary amines with the molecular formula C3H9N, ano gagawin dyan? We have primary amine. So, ibig sabihin from your formula, kunin mo yung NH2. Kasi NH2 is primary amine. No? Ano yung secondary amine? NH lang. Ano yung tertiary amine? N lang. Okay? So, ganun. So, gagawin natin, bawasan natin yan ng NH2 kasi that will serve as our primary amine functional group. Bawas natin yan dito. So, ilan matitira? C3H7. So, itong C3H7, i-arrange na natin. Na? Okay. So, dito, lalagay kang NH2 sa dulo. H pala yun. Wait lang. Okay. So, this is one of my isomer for the primary amine. Kung saan yung NH2 ay nasa dulo. Ano pa yung pwede ko gawin? Yung NH2 nasa gitna. Okay. So, ayan. Okay. So, ano mapapansin nyo? The connection of amine are different. No? So, magkaiba sila ng dinudugtungan. Pero, primary amine pa rin yan. No? Kasi dalawa yung H sa tabi ng N. Okay. So, ganun lang. Ang pangalan nito ay Pedro. Hindi. Ang pangalan niya ay propylamine. Ito ay 2-propylamine. No? So, magkaiba sila ng pangalan. So, sa future, malalaman nyo kung paano magpangalan. Ha? Okay, so magkaiba sila ng structure. So, that means they have different properties. By the way, anong intermolecular force ang pwede gawin nito? Amines can form hydrogen bonds as well. Kasi meron tayong bond with NH. No? Kailan uli nagkakaroon ng hydrogen bond? NH, FH, and OH bonds. No? So that will behave similarly as your alcohol. No? So yan. So medyo same sila ng properties. Okay? Next one, ketones and aldehydes. No? So ano meron sa aldehydes and ketones? 'Di ba? Kung mapapansin nyo, may C double bond O. Ano tawag sa kanila? So ang tawag sa C double bond O ay carbonyl group. So, yung tawag dito ay carbonyl group. No? So for aldehydes, yung carbonyl group mo ay may hydrogen sa dulo. For your ketone, yung carbonyl group mo ay walang hydrogen sa both ends. No? Hindi pwedeng magkaroon ng hydrogen dyan kasi kung meron, magiging aldehyde yon. Okay? So, yan. So, pag ito, H yan, aldehyde. Pag walang H sa paligid niya, ketone. Okay? So, we call this C double bond O, the carbonyl group. No? Okay? So, ganun lang. Let's try to do this one. Problem. Draw the condensed structural formula. Lewis structure na lang yung dinodrawing ko ha, para mas makita natin. For the two carbonyl containing compounds with the molecular formula C4H8O. May carbonyl compounds daw tayo. So, ano gagawin mo? From the formula, ibawas ang C double bond O. Ibawas natin yun dyan. So, ano matitira? C3H7 uli. No? So, C3, H7. So, ilagay ko na dito yung mga H, no? Ilan na to? 8 pala, sorry. C3H8. Kaya pala nalito ako. C3H8 yan. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ilagay ko yung C double bond O ko, then yung H. Ano tawag dito? We call this group the aldehyde. Okay? So, if your carbonyl compound has a hydrogen sa gilid, pag may hydrogen sa gilid, aldehyde yan. Okay? So, ano pa yung pwede natin i-draw? Pwede yung C double bond O nasa gitna ng dalawang carbon. Oops, mali. Bawal doon. Bakit bawal doon? Kasi may apat na bonds na yung carbon. Apat na yung bonds niyan. So, hindi ka na pwede maglagay ng hydrogen dyan. Okay? Okay, so ito yung ating C double bond O, which is sandwiched between two carbon atoms. So that is a ketone. Okay? Aldehyde, H yung nasa dulo. Ketone, walang H sa dulo. Okay? Sir, what if ito ilagay mo dito? That's the same as this one. Kunwari ito ilagay ko dito sa gitna nito. Pag binaliktad mo yung molecule, ganito lang din itsura nun. Sir, kunwari ito ilagay mo doon. That's the same as this one pa rin. Parang flinip mo lang yung molecule. Sir, pwede ba to sa gitna? Hindi. Bakit hindi? Kasi yung hydrogen natin, isang bond lang pwede. So, hindi pwede dito dumugtong yung isa pang carbon. So, sa dulo talaga yan, na. Okay? So, ganun lang. So, that's our aldehydes and ketones. The only difference is the hydrogen atom. Dami pa ba? Ay, unti na lang. Salamat sa Diyos. Next one, carboxylic acids. Now, the two words yan, carboxylic. Okay. So, yung carbo meaning non-carbonyl. So, that means may C double bond O ka. Oxic is from the hydroxyl, no? OH, no? So, you have your C double bond O and OH. Kaya ang tawag sa kanila, carboxylic. Okay, so yun yung functional group niya na. So, may C double bond O, OH siya. Try natin to. Draw a condensed structural formula for the single carboxylic acid with the molecular formula C3H6O2. So, anong gagawin mo dyan? Ibawas mo na yung carboxylic acid. C double bond O, OH. So, ibawas mo na yan. Bawas natin yan dito sa formula. Ano matitira? C2H7. So, C2H7 na lang, no? O, isa lang naman daw yung magagawa nating molecule. Eh di, sige. C2. Ba't 7? 5 pala, sorry. Nag-add. Ganito talaga pag walang merienda. Ayan, C2H5. Sorry. Yan, C2H5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then, ilagay mo na ang iyong carboxylic group. Now, this is your carboxylic. Okay? So, yan lang yung pwede natin magawa. Sir, pwede mo ba ito ilagay dito sa kabilang dulo? Opo, pwede. Pero same lang yan as this one. Binaliktad mo lang uli yung molecule. Pwede ba to sa gitna? Hindi. Kasi yung H, isang bond lang pwede gawin niya. Kay O lang siya naka-attach. Okay, so hindi pwede dumugtong yung carbon na to dito, ha? Bawal yon. Bawal yon, kapatid, no? Next one, carboxylic ester. So, ang carboxylic ester naman is a derivative of the carboxylic acid in which your H is removed. Pinalitan siya ng carbon atom, such as shown here. Diba? Pag carboxylic acid yan, H yan. However, pag yan ay magiging ester, instead of having H, may carbon na nakadugtong doon sa O. Okay? So, that's our ester. Saan nakikita yung mga ester? Si ester ay nakikita sa mga sabon-sabon. Yung soap molecules, may ester yun. No? And next one, amines. No? Last one. Okay, so amide pala, sorry. Amide. So, carboxylic amide. So, meron kang carboxyl group, carboxylic acid, carbonyl group. Then, you have your amine group, na. Okay, so magkakasama yan. Instead of having OH, you will instead have your amino group, yung NH group mo. So, depending on the number of hydrogens attached to your nitrogen, you can have 3 types of amides. No? So let's have this for example. May dalawang hydrogen katabi si nitrogen. So that means that is a primary amide. Pag isang hydrogen lang ang katabi ni nitrogen, that's a secondary amide. Then kapag wala siyang katabing hydrogen, that's a tertiary amide. Okay? So yun lang yung mga difference nilang tatlo. No? So that ends our discussion for today. 1 hour and 30 minutes din halos. No? So yun. Yun po yung pagtatapos ng ating lesson ngayon. So ano lang yung na-cover natin this time? The brief history of organic chemistry, which we started with the idea of vitalism. Sabi doon sa vitalism, lahat ng bagay ay gawa sa tulong ng mysterious vital force. However, that is not true according to Friedrich Wöhler. So according to him, yung organic molecules, you can create them out of inorganic substances, but just do the right process. Gawin mo lang tama. Okay? So yan. So since the vitalism was debunked, may na-discover na tayong milyones na organic compounds. No? So, yung ating organic compounds, they can be connected with the structural theory of matter. Ito yung principle about the connection of the atoms na. According to the structural theory of matter, yung ating atoms, they can connect to certain number of atoms by default. They can create bonds by default na. Such as this one. Tetravalent, trivalent, divalent, monovalent. By the way, I forgot, no? Nakalimutan lang ako i-share. So let's have this for example, C2H2. Paano mo gagawin yung Lewis structure niyan? Huwag ka na mag-natural Graduate na kayo eh. So in carbon, it can form 4 bonds, di ba? Tapos, dalawang hydrogen lang meron ka. So ano mangyayari sa dalawang bakante? Pwede mo sila pagsamahin to form triple bonds. No? So pwede mo pagsamahin yung mga single lines ng kada atom na yan to create triple bonds. No? Basta yan. Okay? So pwede mo pagsama-samahin yung mga single lines nila to create triple bond. No? So pag may triple bond ka, tawag dyan ay alkynes. Okay? Alkynes tawag dyan. Another example, kunwari meron kang C2H4. Draw natin yung Lewis structure niyan. Apat na bonds kaya gawin ni carbon. Meron kang 4 lang na hydrogen. May natira kang malungkot na bonds. Pwede mo yung pagdugtungin. So you will have your C double bond C. Okay? So yung double bond na yan, we call them alkenes. No? So yan. Pag single bond yan, alkanes lang. No? So yun lang yung nakalimutan ko i-share. No? Na yung mga single lines, no? Pag wala na silang ma-pair na atom, pwede mo sila pagsamahin na lang to create multiple bonds. Double bond and the triple bond. No? So yan. So next meeting, anong gagawin natin next meeting? Sakit na nalalamunan ko. Discuss natin yung covalent bonding uli. Okay, so kumbaga magkakaroon tayo ng review ng Gen Chem uli. No? Alamin natin how molecules come together and ano yung behavior ni carbon sa ating organic molecules. Paano siya nakakabuo ng 4 na bonds? Kasi may dito, merong na-discover silang parang weird kay carbon. So, yun yung hybridization. Di-discuss natin next sem tuloy. Next meeting yan. May nalalaman natin yung hybridization ng carbon. Bakit may hybridization? Next meeting na lang. Then, due to hybridization, may different bond strength and bond length tayo. So, magkakaiba yung sizes ng atoms natin. I mean, yung distances ng atoms depending on the bonds, no? And the geometry of your carbon atoms depending on the hybridization. Okay? So, yun lang. And yun lang. So, basically, everything is just a review intermolecular forces then. Okay? So, ganun lang. Yun lang. So, yun yung mga cover natin next meeting. We will have a summative, hindi naman summative, no? We will have a review of the concepts ng bonding, and then magfo-focus tayo kay carbon kasi organic chemistry is the study of carbon containing compounds, no? So, yun, malalaman natin yon next meeting. Okay? So, yun, tapos na po, no? I'll see you again by next week, Friday. I don't know, ha? Kasi yung UST, kaka-announce lang nila kanina na may undas break sila. Kailan yung undas break nila? October 28 to November 2. So, ito UST, walang pasok niyan, no? Ayan. Yung FEU, di natin sure kung kailan sila mag-uundas break, kung meron o wala. No? Tignan natin. Okay? So, yun lang. Pero just in case na kunwari may undas break dyan, i-record ko na lang yung sarili ko. No? Okay, so yun lang. Stay safe, no? And we'll see if we will meet next week, no? Kung mayroong undas break ba ang FEU or wala na. Let's check for the announcement na lang. Ayan, so stay safe always and enjoy your day, no? So magpahinga na lang muna kayo kung wala na kayong class mamaya, no? Kung gusto niyo mag-take ng advanced lessons nga, punta lang kayo sa YouTube channel natin. May mga org-chem videos na doon, no? So, yun lang. See you again next Friday. Okay? So, upload ko na lang to sa YouTube and bye-bye.